now, Mayor de Blasio is holding a press conference about the thousands of people who were left without power and overnight in Brooklyn and Queens. We're going to take a check-in and listen in now.
The OEM command post has been active since last evening. I want to thank all of the first responders who did extraordinary work last night and overnight securing the situation here in communities in Brooklyn. And I am surrounded by leaders of key agencies, emergency management, NYPD, FDNY, including EMS, of course, and state police. Want to thank all of them for all that they did and all that the members of their team did. So let me give you some updates. We've gotten information from Con Ed. I want to say at the outset, I am extremely disappointed with Con Ed. They have been giving us consistently inconsistent information over these last days. There's a bigger problem here we have got to resolve with Con Ed, because this was a situation we all saw coming, and I don't have any good answers yet as to why this happened and why it was not prevented, but I'll come to that again in a moment. I will give you the information they're giving us, but everyone should take it with a grain of salt at this point. Right now, we have about 19,000 Con Ed customers without power citywide. About 13,000 of them are in this area of Brooklyn, and that includes the neighborhoods of Canarsie, Mill Basin, Bergen Beach, Flatlands, and part of East Flatbush. Because Con Ed chose to take this action, to take these neighborhoods off the grid, to take their power away, we had to immediately deploy first responders to address the situation, because Con Ed's decision occurred just as it was getting dark, which meant there were real safety and security issues that had to be addressed. NYPD deployed over 200 additional officers to the area. I want to commend the NYPD and also the residents of the neighborhood for the way they handled things. As of this moment, the information we have in these affected neighborhoods in Brooklyn, there were no arrests, no summonses, no reports of any problems at all. More than half of the traffic lights so far have been restored. So when this power was taken down, it affected traffic lights, it affected street lamps, but now more than half of the traffic lights have been restored. There are a number of additional traffic agents out to help traffic keep going until all the traffic lights are restored. Want to thank our colleagues from the state police. They did a great job. They came in and helped out quite a bit. Want to thank them for their cooperation and their involvement in helping to address this. Also want to thank FDNY for getting out not only in force to address any potential situations, but proactively going to the homes of folks who were vulnerable. For example, folks who had breathing issues, were on ventilators and needed assistance, to make sure that they were getting the help they needed. Also want to note that OEM set up an emergency shelter with Red Cross in case anybody needed to get to a safe location. Thank them for that. On the issue of Con Ed, whereas a week ago we had a situation that came out of nowhere, we still don't even have answers from what happened a week ago Saturday in Manhattan. I have asked Con Ed repeatedly to tell us what happened, why it happened, how they are taking steps to make sure it won't happen again. They have not given me a good answer. This situation in Brooklyn came at the very tail end of the heat emergency. So obviously Con Ed knew they were dealing with an extraordinary situation. Once again, I spoke to the Con Ed president last night. I spoke to him this morning. No answers whatsoever as to why this happened and what is being done to ensure it will not happen again. This was obviously a predictable situation and therefore preventable. What we're getting continually is no clarity, no answers, no real timelines from Con Ed. So at this point, you know, I said earlier in the week that I was having trouble trusting them. I can't trust them at this point because I'm not getting any real answers, and they have let New Yorkers down once again. It's very clear there needs to be a full investigation into what happened not only last Saturday, but what happened last night. It's very clear we have to question whether Con Ed, as it's structured now, can do the job going forward, or whether we need to go to an entirely different approach. So I'm calling for a full investigation, and further that we examine whether we need a new entity to handle this situation going forward, because at this point I do not have faith in Con Edison. Questions on this immediate situation? Yes?
You mentioned when you started talking, Mayor, that you feel like it's a bigger problem here, there's a bigger issue with Con Ed. Elaborate on that. What is that bigger problem?
Look, Con Ed is a private company that is heavily regulated, but they're still a private company. They're not accountable to the public in the way a public agency would be. You know, the Department of Environmental Protection provides water to the people in New York City. If at some point the water was shut off, we, the city government, would have to provide immediate answers. We'd have to show people that it was being fixed, and we knew exactly why it happened and exactly how it would not happen again. Con Ed is very haughty about this. They don't give real answers, and they don't feel they have to. So I think it begs the question of whether a private company should continue to provide a service if they are not accountable to the public.
Do you think it would be better served being handled by the government?
I think we have to look at this from scratch now. We have two major disruptions. And again, they're not doing their job, and they're not providing real information, and they clearly don't feel accountable. So it begs the question, is it not time to do something different? I think first we need a full investigation and see what that tells us. But I am telling you, I have never had an experience where I ask one of my own agencies for answers and don't get answers. This is for the last 8 days, consistent. We're not getting answers. That would be absolutely unacceptable if it were a public entity.
Any idea how much this decision to shut down the electricity last night, any idea how much that's cost taxpayers?
We don't have an estimate yet. We are told, and again, I asked this morning for a specific time when the electricity would be fully restored for this Brooklyn grid. All we're getting is they're saying early afternoon, but not a specific time. But in terms of tallying up what the impact has been, obviously extraordinarily inconvenient for people and right at the end of the heat wave. So that was a very uncomfortable situation for people. But in terms of economic impact, we don't have that yet. Any other questions? Yes?
So you were talking about how state police are here policing city streets. How does that make you feel, and why did the state have to act?
Look, NYPD, as I said, sent in over 200 additional officers. They did a great job. We welcomed the help from the state. It was an exceptional situation, and they worked very closely with NYPD. When we have a situation like this where you have suddenly 30,000 customers without power with no notice whatsoever, we want help from everywhere we can get it, and we appreciate the state police involvement.
Did you coordinate with the governor?
Our teams were fully coordinated, and state police worked under the direction of NYPD in terms of where we needed the additional help.
What kind of financial compensation do these customers expect from Con Edison?
It's a great question. I don't know how that works, but I certainly want to see people appropriately compensated, but I don't know specifically. It's just too early on to know what that number would be.
Is there any indication of whether the major blackouts are related at all, the reasoning, or is that still being
It's a great question. It's exactly the kind of question that we could answer if we understood from Con Ed what happened over a week ago. And again, I emphasize, I've asked this question now probably a dozen times of the president of Con Ed. We still do not have an answer, except that we know a week ago there was a malfunctioning piece of equipment, but no answer as to why, no answer as to how they're going to make sure it doesn't happen again. This one, too, we've got no answer as to why this happened, given that they knew they were in the middle of a heat emergency and had every opportunity to prepare. So, no, I don't know if they're related because we don't have any clear answers. Go ahead. Look, we're going to do everything we can as the city to assist them. We're going to make sure that anybody who needs, again, that we have a shelter location up and running. We're working constantly to push Con Ed to get the power back on. The police are doing a great job with the traffic, and slowly but surely those traffic signals are coming back on. But the bottom line is if anyone needs help, if it's an emergency, call 911. Obviously, if it's not an emergency, 311. We're going to keep providing help. Bottom line is this should not have happened, and we need to make sure it doesn't happen again.
Mayor, do you have a sense, these were they were not emergency blackouts. This was like a controlled blackout.
Definitely emergency, and again, you'll have to ask Con Ed their reasoning. Clearly an emergency, But yes, they made a conscious decision to pull out the electricity from this area.
What could have happened if they didn't pull power?
Again, you have to ask them. I believe that they felt something worse would happen and something that would affect a lot more people. But we were informed of it as it was happening. And again, the question in these situations is if they think something like that is coming up, the ideal would be to say, we're in a problematic situation, let's get additional police there, let's get ready for it. Instead, we were informed of it. I assume they believed they were on the road to something much worse if they didn't do it. But again, we don't have any clear answers.
So you were saying that Con Ed's a private company, so how much power do you really have to hold them accountable?
We don't have the, I can say, for the city of New York, I represent 8.6 million people. We have no ability to control Con Ed, and that's not right. The state regulates Con Ed, but even in that instance, Con Ed made this decision unilaterally. So again, it begs the question, if Con Ed cannot answer us why these things are happening and what they're going to do differently to stop them, then why are we depending on a private company for something that's so vital? We don't depend on a private company for water or for policing or for fire protection. If they can't handle a job, it's time to look at new alternatives. Last call. Okay, thanks everyone.
And we've been watching Mayor de Blasio updating us on the power situation in Brooklyn and Queens. At last check, the mayor said about 19,000 people are still without power. And the mayor said he is extremely disappointed with Con Edison. He said they did not provide any clear answers as to why this happened, and he's launching a full investigation into the situation. Now, according to the utility company, at one point there were nearly 32,000 people without power last night. The mayor said Con Ed made an emergency decision to purposefully take them off the grid to prevent a bigger overall outage and do repairs. Now, for safety, Governor Cuomo announced 200 troopers were deployed to Brooklyn, as well as 100 generators and 50 light towers. And the NYPD also deployed 200 additional officers to the area. Now, at last check, Con Ed said they were working to restore power by 11 a.m. And the mayor says if anyone needs help, not to hesitate to call 911-311 for a non-emergency. And we'll be sure to keep you updated right here on CBSN New York